this is not what I expected. I saw him just a day ago on Tucker Carlson,
and
and
ignore him.
I was saddened that when he talked about men and masculinity, he spoke about everything but becoming a husband, but getting married. So obviously that might have just been a unique conversation, because if this typifies him, while that's not my mode of presentation,
no,
that is the content of my life's thinking. I have had, in fact, your viewers can actually see this on the internet. A few years ago, I did something. I have over 1,000 columns on the internet, 20 years of 50 columns a year. So that's a lot.
Yes.
I devoted one in all of those 1,000. All I did is transcribe a phone call from a caller. A woman exactly like that, 50 years old, called my show, because one of my hours each week of my radio show is devoted to men and women. It's called the Male-Female Hour. And this was the topic that day. And she called in to say she has a PhD. She makes well into six figures income. She has a great job. And she goes home at night. Did I say she was about 50? Did I say that? Yeah.
Yep, about 50.
And she goes home exactly what he described, to an empty house. And she regrets terribly that she bought the career kool-aid. There's nothing wrong in a woman having a career. There's something wrong if she thinks that will bring her satisfaction.
All right. Now, do you think that Andrew or myself or anyone else in the red pill would agree with this? Like, to an extent, yes. Okay. We want, like, a lot of guys want that pro-revenge, like, high. We want indignation just as much as women do, because men have been raised as if they are defective girls. Like, boys are raised as defective girls. So we get off on that. The 80%ers, the incels, the guys who are despondent guys, right? Yeah, we love that shit. Why? Oh, you want to know why accountability shows in the manosphere play so well? Because it feeds that want for, like, get her, Kevin, get her, Myron, get her, Andrew, get her, right? We get off on that because he's finally saying something that I wasn't able to say way back in the day. Dennis Prager's here trying to get a little bit of that juice here by saying, hey, look, I talked to this one girl way back in the day and I rebroadcast her, I don't know, whatever, her email or something like that. It's the same thing, by the way, that happened with Steve Harvey. When I did the Steve Harvey show, which was, months ago, when the woman comes up, she literally comes up and she's the one with the microphone in hand. And she's saying, hey, look, I did exactly what Dennis is describing here, right? I did everything by the book. I did everything I was supposed to. I was sold the kool-aid, right? I was told to be an independent, strong, independent woman. I went to school. I got my degrees. I went and I got my own business together. I got all kinds of money. I'm an alpha female. I'm a very straightforward, whatever. Now I'm 36, 37 and my mom's here and she wants to be a grandmother. And where's my man? Where's my man? Is that we have a deficit of real men in the world who can appreciate a good woman like me, who did everything I was supposed to do, that I was told from the time I was 5 fucking years old to do. And now I've reached that. And those are my accomplishments. And no man wants me because they have turned themselves into the men that they always wanted to marry. And no guy wants to have anything to do with them. And sorry, statistically speaking, you're probably not going to be getting married. And you're probably not going to go off into perpetuity and everything, because the things that you thought would make you attractive are completely the thing. Well, they're the things that would make a man attractive. If a man had a degree, if a man had like 4-year, master's degree, doctorate, if nothing else, that's status conferred. Okay. I don't care what you think of academia, but like you got that, you got your own career. You're making, I don't know, 7 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever it is. You're on top of your game. You're a statistical outlier. You kept yourself in pretty good shape. And you are like, imagine a guy in that situation. That guy is is on top of his fucking game, especially at 36, 37 years old. If he had those accomplishments that woman on the Steve Harvey show had, who was saying that, you go, why isn't this guy married? He's got his pick of the litter. He can do whatever the hell he wants to. But it's exactly the opposite for a woman who's 36, 37 years old with those same skills and those same achievements. And that woman's like, Where's my man? We've been talking about that forever. In fact, he knows this because when I show you the turd flinging monkey video that I'm about to show you here, it's exactly the same message. Although it's coming from PragerU, it's coming from Allie Beth Stuckey. But there was, you guys probably don't know this, but me being the manosphere red pill historian that I am, I happen to know of the conflict and the back and forth between Dennis Prager and turd flinging monkey from back in the day. And they had all kinds of exchanges that were going on. And you know what? This guy, Dennis Prager of 2022, is not the same guy who was having those conversations with turd flinging monkey back in 2016. And I'll explain to you why. But here's the thing. This guy wants to get on the Tate train, man. He wants to get the Tate juice here. Clout chasers and hell raisers, right? Here's the clout chaser.
Right. Like a good husband and a family. By the way, so of course I say good husband. A bad husband is not going to bring you joy.
Right, it's not at all.
Right, and it's a gamble. But so as a bad career is a gamble. Mm-hmm. Who promised you a good career? How do you know you'll be working with people that you enjoy or who are decent and honest?
Right.
There are no guarantees in life. So you're not guaranteed a good career if you pursue career. You're not guaranteed a good husband if you get married. However, all things being equal, it's better. There's no question. And I'm a man, and I'm saying that for me.
Yeah. So how do you think, a lot of people are going to talk about this being the case for modern day women, and a lot of young women I hear echoing the same sentiments. I don't want kids. I want the career. I want to be able to travel. I'll be the aunt who spoils her nieces and nephews. How do you think we got to the point that is a commonplace
I know
belief?
how you got to that point. There was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal recently, which echoed something I've said all my life. Feminism has deceived now 3 generations of women. It started with my generation, specifically college in the early 70s. In my case, graduate school.
College, not college.
And I remember one of the gigantic lies, and I'm going to be very open with you. You might be shocked here.
I'm ready.
Well, yes, get ready. I'm warning you. I might go down in your esteem with this story, but I don't care. I prefer honesty to anything else.
Of course.
So they were told, among the 2 biggest lies feminism told women were career beats a man. The old line, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. You've heard that line, right? Okay. The other big lie was your sexual nature is like a man's. You can have sex with no commitment, no emotional attachment, and enjoy it just like men can.
You're right.
So now why did I preface this by saying that I will go down in your estimation? So this was my 20s, and I remember thinking, holy crow, did I luck out. Men have wanted women to think this way for 4,000 years.
Right.
And it just happened as I get to be 20 years old.
Right. He's told this story like over and over and over again. I've seen like at least half a dozen different interviews where he has said exactly this thing, which is, and I want to point this. I got to highlight this here really quickly because this is like boomer speak. I'm Gen X. Thank you very much. Not a boomer. Okay. So I'm going to call out bullshit when I see it. Okay. Because Gen Xers, we call it like we see it here. Okay. So here's the deal. When you got this guy who's saying, oh, yeah, I saw these girls, it would sound like it was hey, there's this new thing, and it's called hormonal birth control. And, of course, what happens is then, of course, he thinks that it's just pandering to men's sexual nature, which it was in a sense. But what he's not pointing out is all of the catastrophic social shifts that came in the wake of all of that. So rather than say, oh, it was because guys wanted to get laid and now the door was open and we didn't have to worry about pregnancy anymore. No, it wasn't about that at all, Dennis. It was about the fact that we turned over the human reproductive process to one sex for the first time in history. That's why. That's why we're at where we're at right now. Instead of looking back and saying, oh boy, guys just were thinking with their dicks and they just want to go and get laid all the time. Yeah, maybe in the freaking Woodstock, maybe in the post-sexual revolution, free love boomer movement. They didn't know what they were. Yeah, maybe you're right about that. I'm 20 years old. Yeah, maybe you were thinking with your dick back then. But what you weren't thinking of was the social impact of turning the human reproductive process over to only one sex and again, incrementally over to one sex. So, of course, what happens is you get these guys, as I've said in the past, like everybody who has been born, like say after like 1960, let's just round it off. You're a feminist. You have had some sort of feminist indoctrination. You think in a way that you do right now because either your teachers or people who were influenced by other teachers have influenced your thinking when it comes to men and women being equal and this and everything else, right? The feminist narrative, the feminist movement, which has morphed really into gynocentrism, but all of that is part of influences or been influenced by people who were influenced by other previous generations. So the reason why he thinks, I think women should be able to vote and they should have what they want to, but they should be more responsible for those things. Yeah, great. But you still have to recognize the fact of how we got to where we're at. And that's never going to be forthcoming from a guy like that. And yes, I realize he's in the business of like getting on there and yucking it up with how old is she? 22? Of course. What do we got here? 10-year follower. Keep practicing the good red pill. All this junk is clout chasing grifters, hiding the 20-year-old coattails you and the OG started. Thank you very much. Let's keep going here.
It's what I thought, because I was always a decent guy and I would not mislead a woman into thinking that there was an emotional possibility if there weren't. And now they're saying it doesn't matter.
Right.
So who am I to intervene with this great feminist message?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I saw a video this morning of a comedian talking about modern day women, and he said, you know what, men, we got to make it out there to those women's marches. And the guys are like, why? And he says, because the women aren't wearing any clothes. They're talking about sleeping with a bunch of men and not caring about it. They'll get rid of your baby if you don't want it. He's like, this is a dream for a lot of men.
That's exactly, no, for all men. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, that's a dream for male nature.
Right.
It's not a dream for a long period. That's why I got married.
Qualify it now for us.
Because I said, I'm not going to live this life forever. This is empty. I was a committed religious person, in my case, to Judaism, as a Jew. I knew this was not the life I should be leading. But, of course, I also wanted to find the right person.
Right.
So this was you asked me, how did this start? Mm-hmm. The answer is with well-educated women.
Hormonal birth control.
The well-educated have done all the damage of the 20th century.
Yep.
The well-educated followed communism, the greatest mass murder movement in human history. The well-educated were deceived and deceptive, and they told women.
Apparently, Dennis Prager has never seen the movie Idiocracy.
This nonsense, career über alles, above everything, and that they don't need a man, and that they could have sex just like men can.
Mm-hmm. And now here we are.
Okay, let's full stop right there, Dennis, because I have to correct him before we move on to the next here. No, it has been this push towards communitarianism. It has been this push towards egalitarianism, which of course feeds into socialism and communism as a political thing. However, it's not necessarily the intellectuals that were the ones doing the killing and everything else. It was actually some pretty dumbass people who bought into this ideology. Okay, so let's be straight up here, because I've what is it? I got to start that. Hang on. I've made this point on previous podcasts as well, is that the idea of gynocentrism is definitely very much related to socialism and communitarianism. I think I put that in the like 2 episodes, like 2 weeks ago, I was talking about this, because Destiny came at me on that one. Oh, it's just, you're just trying to force fit these things, socialism and everything into your ideological box of the red pill. No, I'm not. I go back in history and I can go and show you what happened back in the day and how women think and how men think. Yes, Marxism was definitely started by a dude. Got it. But you know what? It was in the right place at the right time, because both of those, Marxism and feminism, or the beginnings of feminism, like say the suffragette movement, both started right around the same time. 1848, 1849, I think it was 1847, maybe, from Marx, somewhere around there. But they certainly found, common ground. Egalitarianism. That's really what it's based on. It's based on a fundamental misinterpretation, misunderstanding of human nature, because that's all they had to go on back then. They didn't know. It was all blank slate. It was Thomas Locke. It was all this Enlightenment era thinking about, we're all men are created equal and blah, blah, blah. We had no idea about evolutionary psychology. We didn't have no hell. Darwin was just coming up back then, right? Maybe it was before that. But I mean, as far as like evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology, there have been so many advances in understanding human nature since 1848 that to harken back to Marxism or to harken back to the understanding of human nature that the suffragettes had and the Marxists had back in 1847 is ludicrous. It's like putting leeches on, like bleeding someone in 2022 when we have modern medicine. Why is our memes and why is our thinking still rooted? Why are we even having these fucking conversations in 2022 when we know goddamn well, I'll tell you why. Because we put women in charge. Because we have decided as a result of putting women in charge of the human reproductive process that we also should put them into the workplace. We should also put them into his own religion being taken over, the political process, hell, the world's economic organizations. I already showed you this, the IMF, the World Bank, the ECB, all run by women. In 16 of the most developed nations in the world, women control the purse strings. It's all about who's doing the spending, who's doing the allocating of funds, and how do women organize society as per, like, how do men? I gave you this breakdown, hierarchy versus communitarianism. I'm not going to go and belabor that again. But it's not intellectuals so much as it is the fact that we've decided to shift from a hierarchical way of organizing societies to a communitarian way of organizing societies. And we already know, I mean, you don't even need to have a really well-rounded understanding of human nature from a biological or evolutionary perspective. All you have to do is look at the failures of socialism and communism over the years. But they will always point back to that. But you don't even need that, because we already know that human beings aren't meant to work like that. That's not the best way to organize society. Western society has been a success because it was founded on hierarchies, not on, we talk about, communism, social, and throw all that shit out the window. That's a 20th century way of thinking. What it is, it's hierarchical ways of organizing society versus communitarian, egalitarian ways of organizing society. And that's why I called out Jedediah on this as well, as like, that's the difference between, you can take that from the political scale and put it down to the personal scale. So you'll hear women say, I don't want to take my husband's last name. Why? Well, are you not wanting to be part of that guy's tribe? How is it? I don't want to be owned. That's patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to change my brand name. I don't want to, I'm an attorney and I can't change my business cards. I've heard shit like that, right? That's number one. The other thing is you will always hear women who are in an egalitarian relationship will always refer to their husbands as their partners. And I told Jedediah this. I said, why not refer to your husband, Jeremy? Why not refer to Jeremy as your husband then? Well, I do, blah, blah, blah. You're like, well, you just now refer to him as he's my partner. Well, there's a fundamental difference. Like I don't think I've ever called my wife my partner. I say she's my wife. Because there's a difference. Like people throw this at me all the time. They'll say, don't you think your wife is your best friend? No, not at all. No, Ned is my best friend. No. My wife is much more than a best friend. So there's a different qualification. And so therefore words mean something. And in this case, to call your husband a partner, that's expressive of an egalitarian mindset. Hell, homosexuals call their partners their partners. My wife, my husband, blah, blah, blah. And until you kind of go, you're a woman and you're referring to as your wife. Like that throws people off. But people always want to say, my partner this, my partner that, because they want to think in terms of egalitarianism. Well, when did that shift take place? When did we start calling our wives and our husbands our partners? I don't know exactly the date, but I do know it was after the sexual revolution. So if you want to know where all this stuff is coming from, it ain't going all the way back to, Timbuktu. It's with it all started right in 1965.
Now here we are with the largest depression rate among young women in recorded American history.
Yep. So in this case, after watching this video of Andrew Tate, who's a highly controversial man at the moment, you may not agree with the delivery, but you agree with the message.
Yes.
There we
Yes.
go, guys.
I wanna
so
be
you
part
heard it here
of it.
first from Dennis Prager.
So Dennis is cool, just like Tate is cool, right? Same thing that Patrick Bet David did. He was a stud. I could have gone that direction when I was a kid, when I was his age, but I decided to do something different. So you want to be associated with, you want the clout, but you don't want to be like completely identified and align with that clout. Same thing with Dennis Prager here.